And welcome back, everyone. Today we're going to look at how to take existing images that we've done and maybe to look at how we can combine them together to create a kind of more complex composite image. And we will look at this a little bit more in our next lecture as well, but today we're going to start with something simple. We're just going to start with two of our existing images and combine them together as one. So for this exercise, what I've done is I've gone ahead and opened up my shield icon that I made previously, and I decided to open up the two swords that I have done. And that's a good one for us to start with because these two things have a very common theme that we can merge them together. So what I'm going to do to get started is I can do this two ways. I can either come in here and make a new 64 by 64 image to move everything over, or I could create a copy of this image. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and choose to make a copy of this image just because this way I don't have to worry about something shifting around or anything like that. So I'm just going to do a copy of my shield, and that's perfectly fine. I'm just going to save this here, and I'm going to call this, let's say, combined shield. Sounds good to me. And so now we can open up combined shield, just so that way we can make sure we're not editing our original. If we want to edit the original, this is okay. But for our purposes, we want to keep this original intact. So I'm just going to go ahead and close that. Hit no if a pop-up shows up because we want to work here in this combined shield one. All right. Again, I could have done this in original image and then copied stuff over, pasted in. But again, just to make things simple for us, I just went ahead and saved a copy of it. So now I want to go ahead and take my two swords and bring them over. Now there's a couple of different ways that we can approach this. The first is if I say, well, I want to bring over one layer at a time. Maybe I only want one of these two swords. So I could just do like a Control A, for example, hit copy, come over here, hit paste, and you can see they now have created a new layer automatically that has that second sword. And the advantage of doing it this way is sometimes we want to have just one piece of an image come over. Maybe we only want one of these layers that we have here to come on over. However, there are times when we want the entire image to come over. Now, if we want an entire image to do that, we of course could try doing Control A and copy and paste it over. However, if I do that, let's just say I want both of these layers here to come over. If I click on the bottom image, for example, I just say, I want that to come over. I can also drag these instead of copying. I want to drag it over and paste it in. You will see it will bring over that second image. And you might assume, well, if I just do like Control A and copy, I'm going to select both of these layers, Control A, Control C, that should do both of them, right? Because they're both selected. I'm doing copying and I paste. However, you will see it only takes the topmost layer, even though I have over here both layers selected. So how do I get both of these to show up then? So I'm just going to Control Z over here just so I have my shield. And I'm going to show you the way you can do that. Now I just showed you a little trick where I could drag a layer over and onto this tab. And that's how we're going to go ahead and do that. So if you remember, these two layers are linked currently. If I hold down the Shift key and click both of those layers, it is now going to treat them effectively as a grouped object. So when I click and drag both of those layers, you can see how it has in the little transparent window here, both layers. And I go to my combined shield and I click and release here. I can also, of course, try to do it over here, but I'm just going to go ahead and release it on top of the image. You can see that it goes ahead and plops that in wherever I kind of left off. Now that may not be where exactly I want to go, so I can use my move tool to go ahead and drag that into place to wherever I want to go. Now you will notice that, of course, in this image right now, the shield is on top of everything, or below everything, I should say, which means I can't see the shield. But I could drag that shield easily up, and you can see there it is. I'm just going to go ahead and rename that layer as shield, just so I can keep track of things. And I want to get rid of that green, right, because I want to maybe see the swords underneath. All right, well, or maybe I want the swords at the top, and it's the same process either way. So if I want the shield, for example, I can go ahead and use my quick select tool, grab that green area there, hit the delete key, and you can see the swords have now appeared underneath. Similarly, if I want to change that around, I'm going to just drag that shield underneath, go back to the first sword, and I'm going to go ahead and deselect here. And I want to grab this blue region. So I'm going to make sure I'm on the first sword layer. Click that region right there. And you can see it grabs everything except for the first sword. It might look like we're grabbing that second one, but remember, that is on its own layer. So again, hit the delete key, and you can see now that the swords are both visible as well as that shield. Now, of course, I have the option, I can drag that shield around again. I can still have it hidden behind here. etc. Now you notice we did lose a little bit of our handle here when we did that. So if I just Control Z here, we can notice that, oh, it did, of course, grab some of that selection. So that's just a matter of simply using a modifier to remove some of these areas here. So if I go back to my first sword, for example, deselect, and I want to say, you know, I just want this blue region here, but I don't want it to grab the handle. I'll just click inside the handle. Boom. It's now deselected that. Hit our delete key. We have our handle back. And I'm just going to deselect. And we have our two swords now in front of this shield. And you know, I could say, you know what, I want to go ahead and re-add a fill here, or maybe I want to put a gradient in here. So let's do a gradient this time. I'm thinking like a purple sounds pretty good. Just go ahead and just do a linear one. And you notice I forgot to go ahead and select that shield to ignore it. So let's use our quick selection tool. Click on the shield. We don't want to grab everything here. And if we go ahead and use that gradient again, we accidentally fill the shield in. So make sure we inverse to use our gradient. And you can see now we have a nice backdrop here for our combined image. So pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Nothing that should really take too much effort for us to be able to do, to take multiple images and combine them into a single image.